Picture this. You're 22 years old. Your father is worth over $100 billion. You've just graduated from Stanford University, and the world is watching your every move, especially when it comes to love. Just 12 hours ago, news broke that would send shockwaves through celebrity gossip circles everywhere. Phoebe Gates, daughter of Microsoft founder Bill Gates, has quietly ended her relationship with Arthur Donald. Yes, that Arthur Donald. Paul McCartney's grandson, two of the most powerful family legacies in modern history, now walking separate paths. But this isn't just another celebrity breakup story. This is about what happens when you're born into unimaginable wealth and fame, when your private moments become public spectacle, and when even your heart becomes a commodity for the world to consume. Today, we're diving deep into the untold story of Phoebe Gates, a young woman who never asked to be famous, yet can't escape the spotlight that follows her every breath. Let's rewind to November 8, 1999, Seattle, Washington. The world was on the brink of a new millennium, and Bill Gates was already the richest man on earth. On that cool autumn day, his youngest child was born, Phoebe Adele Gates. From the moment she took her first breath, Phoebe's life was destined to be anything but ordinary. Growing up in the Gates household wasn't like growing up in yours or mine. Picture a $127 million mansion overlooking Lake Washington, 60,000 square feet of luxury, a library with a domed reading room, an art collection worth more than most people see in 10 lifetimes. But here's what most people don't know about. The Gates family, Bill and Melinda, made a conscious decision. Their children wouldn't inherit the majority of their fortune. They wanted them to find their own paths, their own purposes. "We want our children to find their own way," Melinda once said in an interview, her voice steady with conviction. Money can't buy character, it can't buy values. So Phoebe grew up wealthy, yes, but she also grew up with rules, expectations, the weight of a family name that opened every door and closed just as many others. Imagine being 13 years old and having your father announce to the world that you'd only inherit $10 million. Only $10 million. For most of us, that's an incomprehensible fortune. For a Gates child, it was a reminder that they'd need to earn their place in this world. The pressure was suffocating. High school wasn't easy for Phoebe. While her classmates worried about prom dates and college applications, she was learning what it meant to be constantly watched. Every friendship was questioned. Every romantic interest was scrutinized. "Is this person with me for me?" she once confided to a close friend, "or because of my last name?" It's a question that would haunt her for years, but Phoebe was different from her siblings. Jennifer, her older sister, followed a more traditional path. Medicine, equestrian sports, a quiet life away from the spotlight. Rory, her brother, kept an even lower profile. Phoebe, she had fire in her eyes. She wanted to make a difference, but on her own terms. In interviews, Bill would later describe her as the child most different from him. "She's so good with people," he'd say, almost with wonder in his voice, as if he couldn't quite understand how someone with his genetic makeup could be so naturally social, so effortlessly charming. When it came time for college, Phoebe chose Stanford University. Human biology. Not computer science like her father. Not business. Biology. She wanted to understand life itself. Maybe because her own felt so complicated, Stanford was supposed to be her escape. A place where she could just be Phoebe, not Phoebe Gates. Where she could study, make friends, maybe even fall in love without the world watching. For a while. It worked. College gave Phoebe something she'd never had before. Privacy. Well, relative privacy. Even at Stanford, whispers followed her down corridors. "That's Bill Gates' daughter. Her dad could buy this entire university." But slowly, carefully, she began to build a life that felt like her own. She threw herself into her studies. Human biology fascinated her. The intricate dance of cells, the miracle of how life sustains itself, the delicate balance that keeps us all breathing. She made friends who saw past the family name. Real friends. The kind who'd call her out when she was being difficult. Who'd comfort her when the weight of expectations became too much. And then she fell in love. His name was Robert Ross, a Stanford student like her. Intelligent, driven, kind. But there was something else about Robert that made this relationship different from any other in Phoebe's life. He was Black Dot in 2023. In a world that should have moved past such things, Phoebe found herself facing a new kind of scrutiny. Social. Media exploded with racist comments, conspiracy theories, hate that cut deeper than any tabloid gossip ever could. People have misconceptions and conspiracy theories about my family and my relationship, she said in an interview, her voice steady, but the pain unmistakable. It's exhausting, but she didn't back down. If anything, the racism she faced seemed to strengthen her resolve. This was her life, her choice, her love. The relationship with Robert was serious, real. For months, they were inseparable on campus. Study sessions that turned into long conversations about the future. Walks around Stanford's beautiful campus, where they could almost pretend they were just normal college students. Almost, but the pressure. It never stops when you're a Gates. Every photo ended up online. Every public appearance was analyzed. Their relationship became a topic of debate in corners of the internet that Phoebe never wanted to know existed. Eventually, it became too much. The relationship with Robert ended. Not because the love wasn't real, but because sometimes love isn't enough when the whole world is watching. After the breakup with Robert, Phoebe retreated. She focused on her studies, on graduating, on figuring out what came next. Tabloids. Moved on to other stories. For a few months, she almost had peace. But then, in October 2023, something changed. Photos began surfacing of Phoebe with someone new. A tall, handsome young man with familiar features. The internet went into detective mode, and within hours, they had their answer. Arthur Donald. 26 years old, son of Alastair Donald and Mary McCartney. And yes, Mary McCartney, daughter of Paul McCartney, grandson of a Beatle. The headlines wrote themselves. Tech royalty meets music royalty. The ultimate Nepo baby couple. When billionaires and Beatles collide. But for Phoebe and Arthur, it started much simpler than that. They met through mutual friends, Stanford connections, the kind of small world that exists when you move in certain circles. Arthur was charming in a way that reminded her why she'd fallen for someone before. But he was different from Robert. Where Robert had been serious and studious, Arthur was playful, artistic, creative. He made her laugh in a way she hadn't laughed in months. The first time we met, a friend would later recall, you could see it immediately. The way she lit up when he walked into the room. The way he couldn't take his eyes off her. For several months, they kept things quiet. Secret dates in hidden corners of San Francisco. Quiet dinners where they could pretend the paparazzi didn't exist. Text messages that made her smile during boring lectures. It felt ... normal. As normal as anything could feel. When you're the daughter of the world's most famous tech mogul, dating the grandson of the most famous musician who ever lived. But secrets have a way of coming to light. June 2024. Stanford University Graduation Day. After 4 years of studying human biology, countless late nights in the library, and more scrutiny than any student should ever face, Phoebe Gates was finally graduating. The ceremony was everything you'd expect. Proud parents, emotional speeches, the promise of new beginnings. Bill and Melinda were there, beaming with pride as their youngest child walked across that stage. But it was what happened after the ceremony. That changed everything. Phoebe decided to share her joy with the world. She put together a photo diary for Nylon magazine, chronicling her graduation experience. Beautiful, artistic shots capturing one of the most important days of her life. And there, nestled among photos of her family and friends, was a picture that would break the internet: Phoebe on Arthur's back, both of them laughing, her arms wrapped around his neck. Pure, unguarded joy. The kind of photo that says everything without saying anything at all. Going public wasn't really a choice. It was a moment of happiness that she wanted to share, not calculating the consequences, not thinking about headlines. Within hours, the photo was everywhere. Entertainment Tonight, People magazine, every gossip, blog, and social media account. The secret was out, and there was no going back. Bill Gates' daughter confirms relationship with Paul McCartney's grandson. Tech dynasty meets music royalty. The Nepo baby couple everyone's talking about. Suddenly, their private relationship became the world's entertainment. The attention was unlike anything either of them had experienced. Photographers followed them through London and Seattle. Every coffee date became a photo opportunity. Every public appearance was dissected for clues about their relationship status. But Arthur was different from her previous boyfriends. He understood the spotlight in a way that Robert never could. Growing up as Paul McCartney's grandson meant he'd been dealing with this kind of attention his entire life. He gets it, Phoebe told a friend. He knows what it's like when your family name is bigger than you are. For a while, it worked. They were photographed at charity events, art gallery openings, quiet dinners in expensive restaurants. Arthur would fly from London to Seattle to spend time with her. She'd meet his family, including the legendary Paul McCartney himself. In interviews, Arthur came across as grounded, despite his famous lineage. At 26, he was pursuing his own creative projects, trying to build a name separate from his grandfather's massive shadow. Sound familiar? But there were signs that all wasn't perfect in paradise. Phoebe made a revelation in a podcast appearance that surprised everyone, including probably Arthur's family. When asked about the Beatles, she admitted something that might have been devastating to any music lover. "I genuinely had no idea if Elton John was gay," she said, laughing at the memory. His entire family starts dying laughing. "Now we've been dating almost 2 years. Almost every time I see them, they're like, 'Is Elton John gay? This girl went to Stanford. Is Elton John gay?'" The story was charming, endearing even. But it highlighted something important. Despite dating Paul McCartney's grandson, Phoebe wasn't particularly interested in music. She was a tech person's daughter who preferred science to songs, data to drums. "I knew about tech stuff growing up, not music stuff," she explained. "It seems small. But in relationships, sometimes the small differences reveal the bigger ones." 22.5 began with promise. Arthur and Phoebe seemed solid. They were photographed together at New Year's events, looking happy and in love. Instagram posts suggested a couple comfortable with their public relationship. Arthur even made appearances in Phoebe's apartment, where he apparently hated a $20 painting she'd bought. The kind of domestic detail that made their relationship feel real, authentic, relatable, despite all the wealth and fame surrounding them. But behind the scenes, things were becoming complicated. Being in a high-profile relationship is exhausting. Every argument gets photographed. Every moment of happiness becomes content for gossip websites. Every decision about privacy becomes a negotiation with the world's curiosity. Arthur had his own career aspirations. At 26, he was trying to establish himself as more than just Paul McCartney's grandson. That's hard to do when you're constantly in the news as Bill Gates' daughter's boyfriend. Phoebe, meanwhile, was figuring out her post-graduation life. What do you do when you're 22? Brilliant, wealthy beyond measure, but determined to make your own mark on the world. How do you find purpose when everything feels predetermined? The pressure from both directions was immense. Friends, close. To the couple say there were no dramatic fights, no public scandals, no betrayals. Just two young people realizing that sometimes love isn't enough when the circumstances are impossible. They care about each other deeply, a source close to the family revealed. But they're both trying to figure out who they are outside of their famous families. That's hard to do when everyone's watching. The end came quietly. No dramatic Instagram posts, no tabloid exclusives, no leaked text messages. Just to people who decided they needed different things from life right now. A year after Phoebe Gates confirmed her romance with Arthur Donald, the pair have split with the 22-year-old businesswoman, revealing she has a new boyfriend. Wait, a new boyfriend? The plot thickens, 'cause this isn't just a story about a relationship ending. It's about what happens next. While the details remain private, sources suggest that Phoebe has indeed moved on. Someone new has entered her life, though she's being much more careful about privacy this time around. Can you blame her? After having her last two relationships dissected by the media, analyzed by strangers, turned into entertainment for millions of people she's never met, maybe Phoebe has learned something valuable about the cost of fame. Arthur, for his part, has returned to London. He's focusing on his creative projects, his music, his own journey toward independence from his family's massive legacy. Donald has been linked to Ava Phillip, daughter of Reese Witherspoon and Ryan Phillip. Even his next rumored relationship keeps him in the world of celebrity offspring. It's almost like there's an invisible barrier. Once you're born into extreme fame and wealth, you can only really connect with others who understand that unique pressure, that specific kind of isolation that comes with having everything except privacy. So what does this all mean? What can we learn from the rise and fall of Phoebe Gates and Arthur Donald's relationship? Maybe it's that love is complicated enough without the entire world watching your every move. Maybe it's that being born with advantages that most people can only dream of comes with disadvantages that are impossible to imagine. Or maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe Phoebe Gates, despite her famous father and billion-dollar inheritance and Stanford education, is just like the rest of us, trying to figure out love, trying to find her place in the world, trying to become the person she's meant to be. The difference is, she has to do it all with cameras following her every step. As I'm writing this script, Phoebe is 22 years old. She has her entire life ahead of her. Relationships that will succeed and fail. Dreams that will come true and others that won't. Mistakes she'll make and lessons she'll learn. The question is, will she be able to do any of it privately? In our social media age, where celebrity has become the ultimate currency, where every moment can become content, where privacy is more precious than gold. What does it cost to be born into the spotlight? For Phoebe Gates, the bill is still coming due. But here's what I know about her from researching this story. She's intelligent, driven, compassionate, and remarkably grounded considering the circumstances of her birth. She's faced racism, scrutiny, and pressure that would break most people. And she's emerged stronger. Her relationship with Arthur Donald might be over, but her story is just beginning. And maybe, just maybe, she'll find a way to write it on her own terms. The breakup between Phoebe Gates and Arthur Donald isn't really about them. It's about all of us, about how we consume celebrity, how we turn real people's lives into entertainment, how we forget that behind every headline is a human being, just trying to figure it out like everyone else. Phoebe never asked to be famous. She was just born to the right father at the right time in history. But she's handled that impossible situation with more grace than most people twice her age. So, as we watch her next chapter unfold, as we inevitably scrutinize her new relationship and her career choices and every decision she makes, maybe we can remember something important. She's not entertainment. She's not content. She's not a character in our favorite reality show. She's a person. A brilliant, complex, fascinating person who happens to have been born into extraordinary circumstances. And maybe that's enough. What do you think happened between Phoebe and Arthur? Was it the pressure of fame, or just two people growing in different directions? And what does it say about our celebrity-obsessed culture that we know so much about the private life of a 22-year-old who never chose to be famous? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to Luminoir for more deep dives into the stories behind the headlines. And hit that notification bell, because trust me, in the world of celebrity dynasties, there's always another fascinating story just around the corner.